Long-term political realignment or just anxiety over inflation and the economy. Some polls are showing more people of color voting for Republicans this election cycle. With control of Congress at stake, the votes of blacks, Hispanics, and Asians may make a big difference in a number of close Senate races in states like Pennsylvania and Georgia. Here to set us straight is the president of Every Black Life Matters and chairman of the Frederick Douglass Foundation of California, Kevin McGary. Mr. McGary is author of the new book, Woked Up, finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. Kevin, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I want to discuss your book in a moment, but first, in a few days, we'll know if Americans have voted to turn away from a leftward shift in our politics and culture. You're a keynote speaker, an activist. So what are you hearing from many people of color? I'm assuming their concerns are similar to those of most Americans. Just how concerned are they about things like woke culture, crime, education?
Yeah, I think thank you for having me, first of all, Gary. I really appreciate being here again. And listen, I think that we are in for a true red tsunami. I think that there are a number of ethnic communities, especially the Hispanic community. I think the black community is also coming along here. So the reality is we're being hit in the face with crazy inflation. Now, I'm in California, so I mean, $7 a gallon gas that's a real reality check that, you know, that's going to hit you. And the other thing is we have rampant crime all across the country, and we have other, rising inflation in all other segments, including food, gas, home energy, and that kind of thing. So all of that is going to play a big impact, I think, on the black vote. I mean, there are some segments that are still traditionally going with the leftist progressive theme. But the reality is, I think that most African Americans are going to be voting based upon their pocketbook, based upon, what the reality of their day-to-day life. And I think it's been so atrocious that you can't continue to just go all in based on party and tradition.
Last week we talked to pollster George Barna, and he said race tops the list of issues of concern for most black Americans this election season. So why do you believe race is their top issue? How might that affect the way they vote?
Well, I hadn't seen that. that is quite troubling, actually. But here's what happens, right? So a lot of people don't want to talk about it. The way the game is played, all right, politically, is that we have certain segments of our society, like the black community, for instance, that still remembers. We've heard the stories. We still remember what happened with Jim Crow and slavery and all of that. And, a lot of us are still bitter and aggrieved about those types of things. So what happens is you have your leftist progressive, kind of parties that love to just pull the levers of aggrievement and agitate these communities right before an election.
I know in your new book you write that observing the word, all actions and interactions through the prism of race is a problem. Tell us a little more about that, what you came up with in your book.
Yeah, so my new book, Woked Up, finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America, really looked at the issue of race, looked at, how did all this really start? So I looked at, first of all, I wanted to look at, since we know that the woke movement is built on the roots of Marxism, wanted to look at Marx, but I felt divinely inspired to look at Marx's mentor, Marx and Engels, their mentor, which was Charles Robert Darwin. When you look at Darwin's work, you look at his first book on natural selection. One of the subtitles is "For the Preservation of Most Favored Races." And I'm thinking, uh-oh. And then you look at his second book, The Descent of Man, where Darwin goes all in and says, look, we have to preserve, we have to protect the pure white intellect, basically the European Caucasian intellect and resourcefulness compared to every single other ethnicity, because we are supreme, fundamentally, is what he was saying. And then at the same time, he pointed to blacks and said, look, they're still trying to climb the evolutionary scale, his theory of evolution. He says they're still subhuman, gorillas, apes, and savages. So when you look at that, and you look at Darwinism spread throughout K through 12, K through 16, honestly, then you see, hey, this is really the taproot of what a lot of our supremacist ideals have come from. A lot of those who hold to Darwinism and then Marxism, which Marx took everything Darwin had and then put the pedal to the metal on all of those theories. Let's see if we can move forward in a more positive way. Let's stop embracing this craziness and start doing something that's going to unify us.
Okay, we'll see if there's a rejection of wokeism. And your book is Woked Up, finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. Kevin McGary, thank you for setting us straight today. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.